Greetings, everyone. I'm Luke Bryan Smith, and welcome to Enlightened, Empowered, Evolved. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm excited today. I have a special guest, Mr. Bryon Coates. Bryon Coates, like many of us, survived a very traumatic childhood, but through these adversities and traumatic experiences, has been able to heal, recover, and transform his life into writing an amazing book entitled Gladiators, A Gladiators Journey. Look that up, it's on Amazon. Bryon is now a life coach who helps others live the lives they want to live. Need I say more? Mr. Bryon Coates, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing terrific. Just like any other beautiful Saturday, I'm doing amazing. Thank you.
Wow. Let's jump right into it, man. I want to hear some of this amazing inspiration, testimonies, adversities, and things, and something that maybe speak to one of our listeners or all of our listeners, myself, in regards to what you have, your mindset, and what you have going on in your perspectives.
Okay. I think the real deal is to recognize, people don't always recognize the trauma of which they survived childhood, right?
Yes.
And that comes in a lot of different formats, right? You could have been whooped, you could have been embarrassed, you could have been sexualized. Yeah. Seeing your parents sexualized, you being sexualized, growing up in a gang infested area, low poverty area, all these things are traumas to people. And what happens for us is later on in life, those traumas, those embedded traumas, because our body keeps the score on those traumas, and then they come out in these messed up ways. And so you always wonder, well, how come I can't maintain a relationship? How come, my kids are doing this? And how come, I'm not doing so well on the job? Is because you get triggered, and then these traumas come out and in some messed up ways. And you all you know is that's just who I am.
Yes.
Right.
And it's something deeply I'm just elaborating on what you're saying, but I want you to continue. Something deeply programmed in your mind, in your whole, sort of like DNA.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Correct. And yes, it's deep inside you. It's basically a PTSD. And we don't even know that these things are triggered, because I've actually read some studies that sometimes there's some things that are in vitro traumas that happen that, of course, you absolutely don't know anything about, right? And trauma is passed down through the bloodline. So for us, right, slavery and all that, and all those traumas and how people reacted to that, that's all passed down in the bloodline. So we, again, don't even know all this. It's just some trauma. And I think at some point, a lot of us know something is amiss, right? Damn, should I really have reacted that way to that small thing? Should I have really done this to that person? Should I have been that way with this relationship? But you don't know how to get out of it, because that's just you. This is how you've always done it. This is how you've survived. And right, we just keep moving. And hoping that somebody will, be able to walk by our side or understand us better or whatever. And oftentimes what it is that we as Black, especially Black men, we recognize who you are. And so when you buck up a little bit, it's not no big deal for me, because that's just how we roll, or how we've been rolling.
Absolutely.
So once we realize that something is amiss, then it's you as an individual now have to figure out how to deal with that. And again, there's a lot of trust issues on who we seek out to help deal with that. There's information that isn't out there readily, and so we don't know it's available to us. So that's one of my missions, is to get this information out to people, so that they know that there's a whole body of people that are just like you, that has similar traumas, maybe even worse traumas, and they are healing and becoming different people. I'm not going to say better people, I'm saying different people, because it's all about how you walking through your life and how you decide if you want to walk through your life differently.
Absolutely.
And
you said, You said a key thing that I picked up on, and it's very important. And I'm not sure if you realize how important it was what you said. Now, you said when you get to a point where you start basically asking yourself questions, did I handle this right? When you get to a point in life where you're self-reflecting and you're aware enough to self-reflect and ask yourself those questions, I think that's the beginning of changes and going overcoming those traumas. I think that's the very beginning when you really start, because some people or some at some points in our lives we hadn't asked ourselves those questions. We
Right.
just thought, like you said, this is just the way I am, and we really don't question, did I handle this right? Or, what can I do to help eradicate some of this pain? We don't. We just deal with it, and it just is. So
Right.
that right there, what you just said right there, that right there is a jewel right there.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
get to that point where you start to question what you're doing and how you're handling things, because it does not feel right. Like you said, we know something's amiss.
Right.
And even when you go back, when I'll elaborate a bit on like slavery, as far as us as men of color, yes, that narrative still affects us, even the way we deal with one another. And I try to put that out there to our youngsters, like the way that you're treating this man because you see him, because he's not from your street, or because he looks like this, and he's someone, of your own, complexion, and you automatically have this hatred towards him. And
Right.
why? And that stimulates back to slavery, when we were divided and put against each other, and it's still embedded in us. And we have to figure out a way, thanks to people like you, to eradicate some of that stuff, man, and learn how to internalize it, shine a light on it, and deal with it and move
Right.
forward.
Right. And that's the key right there, right? Is being able to shine a light on that and that behavior, and deciding for yourself, right? That's not really how I want to walk through life. And not be and not really care about how others might see your change, right? Because people are going to have some opinions about your change.
Absolutely.
And you have to be okay with whatever their opinions are. And that may mean that you have to eliminate some people out of your life because of that.
Bingo. And that's exactly what happens when you're going through transformation, when you're going through changes. A lot of people want you to stay exactly where you are, where they're comfortable with you being this certain way, and
Right.
it makes them uncomfortable, and they start to second guess themselves. But in a way, it can actually help them. It can help them, because they can see you growing and like, wait a minute. Then they start to question themselves, and then that's when those wheels can get turning. But
Right.
oftentimes, unfortunately, they don't. It's just
Right.
that they're just upset and trying to disrupt your flow and trying to pull you back to where they are and
Right.
where they're comfortable with knowing you to be.
Right. Right.
So they'll remind you of who you were.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And right, we use terms like, oh, now, oh, you're bougie now,
Oh,
you're,
well, yeah.
You're all these things now. And no, it's just that I'm choosing to walk through life differently.
Yes, we have to. I'm glad you said that, Bryon, because we have to work on that narrative too. The narratives that we've created for ourselves, especially as men of color, as the narrative that we call nerdy and square, when somebody is handling their business and
Right.
taking care of their, being conscious of their behavior and in their words and just their actions. We're criminalizing and demonizing those things, and those are actually good things. And it's
Right.
like, okay, if you do this, if you're obeying the law, then something is wrong with you. It's like, wait a minute, man. You want to go through life with a bunch of turmoil and a bunch of creating all these unnecessary things,
Right.
because you want to stick to this script of
Right.
being street or keeping it real. And it's like, really think about what you're considering keeping it real. What is that? Is that really something uplifting, or is it toxic?
Right.
And even me speaking on this, I'll encounter some ridicule because, okay, well, yeah, you this, that. No, man, it's like, I want to live my best life, and I want to have inner peace in here. And I think everybody wants that.
Right.
And if that wasn't the case, even our brothers and sisters that are so-called street, they wouldn't spend so much time trying to intoxicate themselves with different things if they weren't seeking that inner peace as
Right.
well.
Right.
So man, we gotta work on that narrative,
Right.
of calling each other out on, you know, from ridiculous perspectives. And
Right.
yeah, man. And yeah. So I wanted to ask you, you help, you're helping with this in many ways. And yes, I want you to continue to elaborate on what ways that you're helping, and how did you get to this point? Were you always like this, or how did you get to this point where you knew you wanted to be an advocate for like change and uplifting and inspiration and changing the narrative? How did you get to that point?
I think for me, on certain levels, I think I've always been this way, right? I advise people, counsel people. I've been youth coaches for basketball, baseball, and trying to put those nuggets of knowledge out there. But it wasn't real focused, and so now I'm more focused because I understand. I better understand the trauma of the childhood and other traumas growing up, and now I'm able to really focus on that and say, let me help you in this way, or let me give you this advice in this way, or let me point you in this direction, right? Because there's these resources out there that we don't know about, we don't trust, we think, well, I wrote this paper and I titled it "White People Shit." We call it white people shit, right? Right? We don't ski, we don't go to a counselor, we don't do all these things we don't do because we consider this white people shit. Well,
Yes.
and I'm trying to tell you it's not.
No.
It's for people that want to get better, shit.
Thank you. No, you're right. Let me elaborate on it a bit. Oftentimes in our culture, it's considered something that you don't speak on and do, to go seek psychological help or go sit down and lay on the couch and get all this stuff off your chest. We just don't do that.
Right.
And then it manifests in different ways in our culture and in our families through violence and in historic alcoholism and just all kind of stuff, and beating of our children and domestic violence. It manifests in other ways because we don't deal with that stuff and sit down and talk to somebody. Like you said, you call it that. So it's
right.
like, yeah, go ahead.
Right. So for me, probably about 6 years ago or so, I was having a discussion with my then wife and turned into an argument. And I remember thinking later, why did I act that way? And that's such a small issue, right? I actually told myself I acted like a 10-year-old having a tantrum, right? And so at that point, I decided, I need to seek some help. So I actually started seeing a counselor, but right about that same time, there was something on TV that, I don't know if it was a commercial, if it was a TV show, I don't even know what it was, but they started talking about being an adult child of an alcoholic. And wow. I remember sitting there thinking, what? That's a thing? And I'm listening to this, and I got to my computer and I started looking it up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I just ordered all these books, and so I'm reading all this stuff about being an adult child of an alcoholic, and you got problems or other dysfunctions. Anybody that it's just not alcoholism, but any really dysfunction that you may have grown up with, and so I read all these books, and then they kept saying, there's these meetings to go to. It's there's a 12-step program, like an Alcoholics Anonymous program, and I'm reading this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to those meetings. And then one day, I showed up at a meeting.
There you go. That was your step. That was that voice talking to you, and you followed
right.
your voice, that inner voice. That does, a lot of people call it inner voice, higher self, Holy Spirit, whatever.
Right.
Nonetheless, it led you to where you So you walked in there.
So you walk in there, or I walked in there, and I realized that, my story isn't unique. Right? I mean, I got a room full of people that are spouting pieces of my story. Yeah, I got beat like this. I got this. I got that. And I'm sitting around like, what? How come I never know it? I mean, I feel like I'm alone, right?
Yes.
In my traumatic journey. But now I'm like, oh, there's a whole body of people that are my people that truly understand. So whatever I say, it's not shocking to these people.
Yes.
At
They can
all.
relate to it.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
We're always afraid that if we say something to somebody, it's going to be so shocking that they're going to have some opinion, not like us anymore, or whatever. We
judge you, laugh at you,
right.
Feel sorry for you. No,
Right.
even from me reading, your bio, I connected right away with it because I've had several emotional talks with my mom that, not to put my mom down in any way. I love my mom to death, but her telling me about how much she showed me love and was involved in this. And I said, Mom, there was several sides to it. I said, I often got beat with extension cords and belts as well. And I said, you can't erase that. Right. I said, so you left me with a lot of confusion. You loved me and hugged me one moment, and then the person that was supposed to love me was able to put welts all over my body at the same time. And I said, that traumatizes people. I'm not blaming you for my life or anything, any bad things, but at the same time, you have to recognize that. So I know it's still my life to salvage a life out of whatever I've been dealt. But at the same time, don't act like that didn't happen, and that wasn't any traumatic experiences. I do appreciate you giving me life, I told her. I appreciate the love that you did show me, but at the same time, there was a lot of negative energy in the air, a lot of frustration. And you were doing what you did from your level of consciousness, from what was handed down to you, what was traditionally considered okay,
right,
amongst our people, to beat your kids, and it was not okay. And it did cause a lot of me to look at things in a distorted way, and really have a lot of anger and anxiety issues because of that. Right. So, in which, like I said, it's still my responsibility to fix them. It's not her. I can't say, Mom, you fix it. She can't do it. I got to do it. But I was able to, back to the point, I was able to relate to you because I know, man, I spent, most of my childhood I can still visualize some of that stuff, and going to bed after a nice whipping, beating, whatever. Yeah. My mom used to tear my butt up, man. Right. So yeah.
Right.
So.
And that, so those types of experiences where we are today, in order for us, first of all, we have to stop suppressing those and acknowledging those, right? If you have the opportunity to have that discussion with the parent, then cool, have the discussion. But ultimately, at the end, for us to be on a healing path, right, we acknowledge what that is, but then we have to be able to forgive.
Yes.
That, because, and we don't have to necessarily tell them that we forgive them, but inside of us, we have to forgive.
Yes.
To let that energy go.
Yes.
Right.
That's imperative right there.
Right.
That's the key right there. Let that go. Let that resentment and that anger towards them, like you said, it doesn't even have to be told to them that I forgive you, but you really have to really let it go, and not just let it be something that you just say because it sounds good, but really forgive, really like send them love and peace, and let all that stuff go for yourself, for you to move to the next.
Right. And I know, and by no means is that an easy thing to do, but whatever work you need to do this. I was listening to Brene Brown one day, and she said something that just flipped the switch for me. She said, what if, just imagine for a second, what if they did the best they could?
Yes. With their level of, like I said, if you listen to what I said, from their level of consciousness, they thought in their reality, they were doing the best they could, and with the tools they had, with the knowledge that they had.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So, from that perspective, right, because what they've done, it's probably less than what they got. So they think they're winning.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. No, yes, you're absolutely right.
Right. So that's just so like I said, that brought me into that realm. When you have those trauma issues, there's a lot of things inside you. Like you said, the anger, there's also a lot of control. There's all these things inside of us that because it helped us to keep our world safe as we're growing through this.
Right.
And so one day, I'm sitting, you may not know this, I'm a associate warden with Department of Corrections, and I hit one of my facilities. I used to oversee 6 different facilities. And I remember hitting one facility one day, and this is after I'm going through this healing process, this healing journey.
Right.
And I remember stepping on grounds, and everybody in the facility, inmates, the person that's the manager there, everybody knows who's in charge when I hit the facility. Yes. And I thought to myself, well, that's a lot of control. And probably my mindset from way back when brought me to this job where I have all this control, and it no longer fits with who I am.
Right.
So I need to transition out of this into something that's more positive for me.
Wow. And that's awesome. You got to that point where you were able to, again, self-reflect and move towards your inner peace and make decisions based on your peace,
right,
with yourself, because ultimately that's what matters is your inner peace, your happiness. You have to live with yourself in your body and in your mind every day. And if you're doing something just because it fits somebody else's narrative or something like that, you're really not going to truly be happy. So
right.
Yes.
Right. And there's so many people that do so many different jobs and they're not really happy about it, right? They took the job because they got pointed to it. It makes a lot of money, whatever. And yeah, you're not really happy, and you identify yourself with this job. See, we aren't the job. We are people, but we often let that bleed over.
Yes. And I can see how that would especially happen in a tough environment like the one that you're in. I can see how that mentally that it would be hard to turn that off and on, especially right. Dealing with what you deal with, all the energy, the negative energy that you are encountering on a daily basis in that whole realm. So
right. But the real deal is, once you're able to shift, that environment really isn't that negative, right? Because it's the interaction that you choose to have with the person that sets the tone.
Yes.
Right. So in my interaction with inmates, I don't have to be mean, right? There's rules I have to follow. I don't have to be mean about it. And Absolutely. We can have a respectful engagement based upon those rules.
Exactly. Right. Yes. And it just, a lot of times it's probably exercise really for you, mental exercise, how you can keep your peace no matter what, and don't allow someone else's story or someone else's energy or attitude or whatever to dictate yours.
Right.
Because that keeps you in control of yourself.
Right.
Really. And oftentimes I've been guilty of it too, trying to pull somebody into my place, my dark place. Right. And then, like they say, misery loves company. So, it is what it is. So for you to still be able to connect with yourself and remain where you want to be, how you want to be during maybe some circumstances that you rather not, partake in, to still stay there, in that peace. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we need those situations to occur so that it does strengthen us in certain areas in our lives, if we really think about it.
Right.
It'd be nice if we can go through life without any adversity or any challenges or anything that challenge what we're setting out to do for ourselves. It'd be nice if it didn't happen, but how do you really strengthen yourself in what you believe if no test comes, no nothing, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
absolutely.
You absolutely have to have those adversities so that you can test your resolve and who you think you are or who you believe you are to be.
Absolutely, because it's easy during moments of when nothing's happened to say, "Oh, I'm the most peaceful man in the world, and nothing can disrupt me." Then somebody comes in there and tells you, "You're an idiot." What do you mean I'm an idiot? You an idiot? You know, it's like.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, you know, and I've passed and failed that test many a time. So
Right.
I'm still working, but I am further along than I used to be.
Right.
I'm way further along in regards to what comes out of other people's mouths. I can honestly say I'm more connected with peace, no matter what. It's like,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I ask myself, you know, what is this person doing to enhance my life in any way? So why would I accept anything they have to say, whether they had something to say about my own mother? Why would I even internalize any of that? It's like
Right.
they mean nothing. So, okay, whatever. I don't even have to say okay, just
Right. Right. You know, the a classic line for that is, I don't know if you've ever seen the series Game of Thrones.
yes, I love Game of Thrones.
So yeah, wonderful show. I watched that series twice. The first time I missed this line, and the second time it just popped out at me. The one Lannister, the king,
Yeah,
he said to his son, "Lions do not concern themselves with the opinions of sheep."
deep. I remember that.
Yeah. And I thought, wow. So you're right when you're saying people are saying this. Yeah, I don't concern myself with your opinions, right?
Exactly.
I am who I am.
Yeah. And I remember a line even in a rap a long time ago. I used to be a fan of this guy named Mace. I don't know if you remember Mace.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he had a line in there. He said, I don't understand the language of people with short money. So basically he was saying, you know, you broke. I can't understand you anyway.
Right.
So it don't matter what you're saying. I mean,
Right.
that's another perspective on it. But
Right.
that I thought that was funny at that time, and it stood out like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm up here doing these big things, and you down here talking. I don't even understand your language, what you're speaking.
Right. Exactly.
You know. So
And we don't need to,
no,
right?
you don't.
Your opinion is your opinion.
Exactly. And everybody's entitled to it, to their
Right.
own opinion and
Right.
their perspectives. And we have to get to a point where we realize that people's perspectives only really has to do with their own world. That your
Correct.
perspective doesn't have to do with my beliefs and my reality. That's your reality
Right.
over here.
Right.
So if you
Right.
believe that I'm an idiot and I'm this, that, I'm weak, I'm whatever, okay.
Right.
That's not my reality though.
Right.
So this is what I think about myself.
Right.
So, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. So,
Okay.
man, well, it was wonderful talking to you. Do you before we leave, do you have any closing words, anything else you want to share?
You know, one of the things I just came up, my book is all in poetic verse, and so I oftentimes think in rhyming, and I came up with that line, helping people move from the confines of their defines, right?
Yes.
Because we have defined ourselves, or we've allowed people to define ourselves, and because of that, we confined ourselves within those definitions. And I'm just trying to help people move away from that confinement and just live a life that they want to live, right? I mean, the possibilities are endless for us all, right? We don't, if you want to go skiing or surfing, go do that. Not because somebody has told you, oh, you're too old, you're too young, you're too dark skinned, you're too this, you're whatever. Just go do your thing.
Right.
Try it out.
Exactly.
One of my next ventures I want to go do is I want to go learn how to sail on a sailboat. So I'm gonna go take some sailboat lessons, and I'm sure people are gonna be like, oh, you bougie. No, it just looks like fun.
It looks like fun. It does. It looks relaxing.
Yeah.
It's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
It does. So yes, exactly. Do that. Just like, I listen to classical music now. Now, believe me, my first love is always going to be R&B and soul music. That's my music.
Right.
And that fits, but just to try something different, I listen to Beethoven and stuff like that while I'm relaxing and reading, and then listening to the violins and things like that.
Right.
Somebody else that's closed off might think, man, what do you think you are? You think you this and that? Okay, that's fine. But it's not going to stop me from doing that, because I know it makes me feel good. So
Right.
I'm going to stop something that I enjoy and what makes me feel good because of an opinion,
right,
or a narrative, or a define. Like you said, no,
yeah,
not at all. And I appreciate you elaborating on that, because if anything, hopefully someone that listens to this, can really start to ask themselves that question too.
right,
And it can stimulate some thought in regards to the defines that they've in labels that they've put on themselves and other people. And
right,
that's important right there.
right.
That's a jewel right there, a nugget right there, if not anything else. I appreciate having you on this platform. Is there any way, first of all, what's the name of your book again?
The book's A Gladiators Journey.
A Gladiators Journey. Everybody look out for that.
Yep,
Everybody go on Amazon and go and get that. A Gladiators Journey by
yep,
Bryon Coates. I'm
yep.
going to go get it, and I'm going to have him back on the show after I read it, and we're going to talk about it a bit, but go get that. A Gladiators Journey, Bryon Coates. Is
And
there
we
any
get,
way that our people can find you? You got a website,
yeah,
anything, a
so
social media platform that they can find you on?
so I have a blog, bkcoach.com. You can see my blog, and I talk all about this survival journey.
bkcoach.com.
Coates, Coates.
Coates. Oh, Coates. Yeah, your last name.
Yes.
bkcoates.com.
Yep,
Okay.
you can see me there, and you can also hit me up on social media, Facebook. I'm Bryon Coates on Facebook, and we can have all those types of dialogues. I love having the dialogue with people all the time, and I haven't built my website yet, but I'm also a life coach. But either one of those those platforms you can find me on, and we can talk about doing some life coaching.
Thank you. I appreciate your energy. I appreciate your perspectives. I appreciate your wisdom, your knowledge, your just everything, man. Your narratives just is so uplifting and so self-reflective, and so just gives me so much inspiration to overcome and to grow, and to know that there's light at the end of that tunnel no matter what we go through. I appreciate you, brother. You're an inspiration. And I'm glad I got a chance to, at the same time of this platform, to kind of get you to know you a bit and to make your acquaintance. I appreciate it very much, brother.
Yeah, I
Thank you
appreciate
very
you.
much. And for everybody listening here on Enlightened, Empowered, Evolved, thank you. Peace, love, and happiness to everybody.
All right.